Connie, this is Jean. We've been staying in Lakewood waiting for a baby.
Yeah.
And on Shabbos, our granddaughter had a baby boy, and we became great grandparents.
Mazel tov.
Thank you.
What wonderful,
Thank
wonderful
you.
news.
Thank you. That's why we're still in Lakewood.
Baruch Hashem.
So, thank you. Thank you.
Be there for good things.
Amen. Amen.
Mitzvah Hashem. You should
Thank
have a lot of
you.
nachas and continued simchas.
Amen. Amen. You and everybody there too.
I just came in. What are we excited about here?
Jean became a great grandmother.
Oh,
Mazel tov.
yay!
Thank you. Yes, but I'm still young.
Baruch
Oh,
Hashem.
for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, and today is also Leah's father's
Birthday.
birthday, Yitzchak Leib ben Shmariyahu, and his life on this world that's continuing in the world to come, but always remains connected, is receiving nachas as we learn in the merit of his special day.
Amen.
Amen.
So we currently are doing the chapters of Tehillim that are connected to the Hallel prayers. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about Chanukah as we recite these prayers. So last week we started a chapter 116, and the chapter began, Ahavti ki yishma Hashem es koli tachanunai. I've loved God because he listens to my voice and my supplications. Kihita oznai li v'yomai ekra, for he turns his ear to me on the days when I call. And we spoke about the fact that David HaMelech is thanking Hashem for the amazing and wonderful miracles in his life. And he composed this Tehillim as he was fleeing from one place to another, as Shaul HaMelech wanted to kill him. And there was always that fear that he had to constantly be on the lookout and on the run. And when Hashem saved him, he recited this psalm. And one of the things that we noted last week as we started this chapter was how Hashem comes to our salvation, and we specifically experience a salvation, and the wonder of the miracle is when a person or a nation is at a loss, when they no longer can figure out how are we going to proceed, how are we going to go forward. And at that point, that's when we see how Hashem is our salvation. So I wanted to digress for a little bit. It's not really digressing, but branch out and look a little bit at this Yom Tov of Chanukah. Every day in Chanukah, we say the Tehillim. We say these Tehillims that we are in the middle of learning. We recite the Hallel, and we recite Hallel, which are songs of praises to thank Hashem for the wonders and for the miracles that he has performed for us. In addition to reciting the Hallel, we also say special prayers when we light the Hanukkah candles. In addition to the brachas, we also sing a special song. And in the Chabad Siddur, in the Nusach Hari Siddur, this blue Siddur, it's in the order of the kindling of the Hanukkah lights. So on the first night, we make 3 blessings. We say 3 brachas. The first one, Lahadlik Ner Chanukah, that we kindle the Hanukkah lights. The second one is that Sha'asa Nisim Lavasenu, who perform miracles for our forefathers in those days at this time. And just linger over this bracha for a moment, that when we say this bracha, that Hashem made miracles for our forefathers in those days at this time, it's worthwhile to think about the meaning of that bracha. You know, we celebrate Chanukah specifically on the and every Yom Tov and every miracle that we celebrate, we specifically celebrate it on the date upon which it happened. Today we dedicated the class to the birthday of Leah, Abraham's father, Olav Shalom, Lahavdil ben Chaim L'chaim, Yitzchak Leib ben Shmaryahu. A birthday is celebrated specifically on the day of the birthday, unless of course you're a queen, and then you have an official birthday. But for the rest of us common folk, the birthday, and specifically the Hebrew birthday, is a very important day because birth is a miracle. Hanukkah is a celebration of a miracle that took place when, by Yomim Hahem, in those days, back in the day, many years ago, but Bisman Hazeh, at this time, these are the days when the miracle happened. Now, why is it so important to celebrate the Yom Tov on that specific date? Why can't we just make it at a convenient time? Why can't we always say, all right, it's at the end of Kislev, or it's at the beginning of Kislev? No, specifically at this time. Because what happens when a miracle takes place? And we're going to talk a little bit more about the miracle of Hanukkah, but what happens when a miracle takes place? It's a revelation of Hashem. It's a revelation of godliness. And the specific time that that revelation takes place or took place, that it happens, so whether it's a birth, which is a miracle, whether it's the miracle of Hanukkah, whatever the miracle specifically is, that time, that specific time is forever imprinted with this revelation that took place. So every year when Hanukkah comes around, we celebrate it on the same date, following the Hebrew calendar, which is Chaf Hey Kislev, the 25th day of Kislev for 8 days. And that's why we celebrate specifically on those dates, because those days are now filled with that revelation. So what does that mean? It's filled with that revelation. What's the meaning of that? The meaning of that is that just as back then the miracle happened, the oil lasted for 8 days, the army, the weak army against the strong army, and so on, all those revelations that took place, they are in place right again, right now. That means that these 8 days of Hanukkah are filled. They are ripe for revelation. They're filled with revelation. Not that they're ripe for they are filled with revelation. And what do we need to do? We need to create a keli. We need to create a vessel so that we can receive and ingest all of that light and all of that godliness and bracha and blessing that comes in. By Yomim Hahem, in those days, Bizman Hazer, at this time. And so how do we do that? We do that by fulfilling the mitzvahs of Hanukkah. We light the candles, we make the brachas, we say extra tefillahs, extra prayers, we have many, many customs, we eat special kinds of food, we are extra joyous, and our focus is on lighting up the night. And this is a specifically ripe time. And just to mention, I probably did mention it already, but I'm going to mention it again. In the Zohar, we are told that when we light the candles for Hanukkah, the light that comes off of those candles are so powerful. And the mitzvah of the Hanukkah candles is actually to look at the flames. And in the Zohar, it's explained that the koyach, the strength, the blessing that comes off of those candles is so incredible and so immense. So even sitting and looking at the menorah, at the lights that are coming off the candles, we receive incredible, incredible blessings. So I might suggest that as you light the Hanukkah candles and you sit there and you're looking at the candles, ask Hashem for all the brachas, for all the blessings, for the world, for Klal Yisrael, for you, for the individual. It's a very powerful time, and this entire 8 days of Hanukkah is ripe for us to just ingest and create the keli, create the vessel for Hanukkah. And really, that is what we're supposed to do when we light the candles. So after the first night, on the first night we say an extra bracha, the Shehecheyanu. If one didn't light the menorah at all and they end up lighting in the middle of Hanukkah for the first time, they will also recite the Shehecheyanu, but only the first time that year. And then we sing a beautiful song. Now, there are many different songs that people sing. One of them, which is in the Siddur, is the song of Haneros Halalu. As with all tefillos, there are different nusachot. There are slight variances, but the gist is pretty much is the same. So we say like this, we sing after the lighting of the candles, and we talk about this Yom Tov and this mitzvah of lighting the candles. It's on page 390 in the Siddur if you want to see. And we say like this, Haneros halalu anu madlikim. We kindle these lights to commemorate ala tshuas v'ala nisim v'ala neflaos sha'asisa lavasenu b'yomim ha'hem bizman hazeh. So we light them to commemorate the saving acts, the miracles and the wonders which you have performed for our forefathers in those days at this time. And then it continues, Al Yedei Kohanecha HaKadoshim. How did those miracles take place? Through your holy Kohanim. That was in the holy temple, in the Beis Hamikdash. That the miracle of Hanukkah was, well, we'll get into what specifically was the miracle of Hanukkah. There were many miracles that took place. The one that we specifically are commemorating is the miracle of the oil that was found, the pure oil that was found and lasted for 8 days.
Honey?
Yes?
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
If we're going to light for someone who has never lit before, do you have them make the Shehecheyanu?
Yes, yes. Yes, they
Okay,
should
thank you.
say the Shechianu.
Thank you.
So, throughout the 8 days of Hanukkah, these lights are sacred. And this is a very important instruction. First of all, as we mentioned earlier, to realize the holiness, the strength, the revelation in these lights. And also the halacha, there are many laws. Ve'ein lanu reshus lehishtamesh bahen. And we are not permitted to make use of them. It's interesting, the Chanukah candles is very different to the Shabbos candles. Because on Shabbos, we specifically light candles to make use of them. The purpose of the Shabbos candles is that there should be shalom bayis, there should be peace in the home. When there is light, there is peace. And that's the purpose of the Shabbos candles. The Chanukah candles, on the other hand, we are not allowed to make use of the Chanukah candles. And that's why we always light a shamash or a shamash. The candle that is used for any purpose that is needed to light the other candles. If a candle goes out, we can use that candle. But otherwise, we are not permitted to take a light from one of the Hanukkah candles to light another one that went out. We're also not permitted to read by the light of the Hanukkah candle. So even though we want to do activities near the Hanukkah candles, because who would want to lose that opportunity of being in the direct glow of those holy candles, but they're only there for one purpose. And the song tells us, Ella lir'osam bilvad, only to look at them. Kedei lahodos or lahalel lashimcha hagadol, in order to offer thanks and praise to your great name, al nisecha, for your miracles, but al nifla'asecha, and for your wonders, but al Yeshua secha, and for your salvations. So this song that we sing after we light the candles is also a very important, has the important purpose of focusing us. What are we doing here? We just lit the candles. What's the purpose of the candles? Why are we lighting these candles? And the song reminds us we're lighting these candles for the purpose and the sole purpose of looking at the candles and absorbing the message and the lesson of these candles, not for any other reason. And to focus us to the purpose of this Yom Tov, of Hanukkah. So if we look at the Hanukkah candles, the truth is, if we look at any candle, we'll see that there are three components to a candle. There's a wick, there is the fuel, either wax or oil, whatever it is that is the fuel, and then there is the flame that is carried by the wick and is fed by the fuel. Now, in order to have these beautiful lights, you have to have all three of these components. You need the oil, you need the wick, and you need the flame. If you do not have all of these three, you will not have an enduring and clear flame. I mean, the wick will burn out very, very quickly as soon as, because it gets burned up. But you need to have all of these three things. Now, during the time period of the miracle of Hanukkah and the events that led up to the miracle of Hanukkah, and I think we mentioned last week that actually when you read the extra prayer that we add to our Amida and to our Birchat Hamazon, to the grace after the meals and to the silent prayer, that we do mention in there the miracle of the war. There was a war that took place, and there was a miraculous salvation. We do mention that, but the celebration of Hanukkah really is about this. It's about the oil that lasted for 8 days. And what was the big challenge at that time? What was the war all about? Yes, there was a physical war, and yes, there was a great salvation, but what preempted this war? Why did the war come to be? And that's because there was an attack on the sanctity, on the purity of the Jewish people. Meaning what? That the Hellenists had no problem with a Jewish culture. I mean, culture's wonderful. The Beis Hamikdash, the sages tell us, if you did not see the Beis Hamikdash, you have not seen beauty in your life. So the culture was okay. The problem was that they did not want there to be the element of Kedusha, the element of holiness. And the element of holiness is seen in the observance of mitzvahs that defy our comprehension. And that's why during this time, what was the attack? Where did they start? They forbade the keeping of Shabbos. Shabbos was okay. It's fine to have a day. It's not, it's wonderful. You know, Thanksgiving every weekend. What could be nicer? What could be better? But all the halachas, all the laws, not working and not working fine, but not with the detailed halachas. So it was Shabbos that they attacked. It was Bris Milah, the bris, that they attacked. It was Rosh Chodesh, which is the sanctification of time by Bnei Yisrael, that was attacked. The sanctity of the Jewish woman was attacked. And this was really what the fight was all about. This is what led to the war. It was an attack. It was a fight on spirituality. So in essence, really, what was the fight all about? The fight was all about the flame. The flame that we look at represents this bringing together of the two worlds, the physical and the spiritual. And when Hashem gave us the Torah, when God gave us the Torah, he gave us the ability to bring a sustaining presence of Hashem, which is above nature, into this world. How so? Through the performance of mitzvahs. And you will notice that every mitzvah is a physical act with a physical piece of material. Hashem doesn't command us to go and sit on a mountaintop and pontificate about his greatness. Yes, there's a place for meditation, but if we want to observe Torah, we have to take the physical object, and if we want to fulfill the mitzvah, for example, of the Hanukkah candles, we can't merely talk about the spiritual aspect. We need to take a physical flame and put it to a physical wick and put the physical oil into the candle. And that is really Yiddishkeit. The Hanukkah candles represent Yiddishkeit. And this is the kind of Yiddishkeit that the Hellenists, that the Greek philosophy and the Syrian army wanted to do away with. And when we look at a candle and we see the beautiful flame that is produced from the wick and the oil and the fire all coming together, that's when we say over here, we're forbidden to use it. Ela lir'osam bilvad. We're only supposed to look at them. And look at them and what? Look at them and understand what was the victory of Hanukkah. The victory of the Hanukkah is that Jewish life is all about the unification of the physical and the spiritual, of revealing the light, revealing the Shekhinah, God's presence in this world. And how do we do that? We do that by performing mitzvahs, by fulfilling the commandments of the Torah. And there is no dichotomy, there is no separation between the physical and the material. Many people mistakenly believe that there's a separation. God is in the heaven, we're on the earth, and the two are not related. The whole purpose of our creation is so that we can keep the mitzvahs of the Torah, and that is the way in which we bring about this beautiful light in the world. Just like when you have the physical oil and the wick and the flame, and together they create a beautiful light, so too when you have the neshama, the soul in the body, and the physical components to perform a mitzvah, and you bring those all together, then you have a beautiful flame, a beautiful revelation of godliness in the world. And that's the lesson that we are supposed to see in the Hanukkah candles. Now, the Rebbe speaks about an interesting concept when you look at this prayer. If you look at the song, Haneras Halalu, you look at this song. So it starts off, we say, we kindle these lights, and then we mention 3 reasons that we kindle the lights. Al HaTshuos, Teshua is a saving act. Va'al HaNisim, and for the miracles. Va'al HaNiflaos, and the wonders. And then at the end of the song, we say, right, we look at the candles. We're not allowed to use them other than for the purpose of looking at them and seeing, as we said, what is the lesson and the message of the candle. Kedei lahodos o lahalel, in order to offer thanks and praise, l'shimcha hagadol, to your great name. And then we mentioned the 3 things that we mentioned at the top. Al nisecha, for your miracles, va'al nifla'osecha, and for your wonders, va'al Yeshua secha, and for your salvation. But if you listen closely, you will notice that the order is changed. At the beginning of the song, we say alachuos, for the saving acts first, then for the miracles, and then for the wonders. At the end of the song, we say al nisecha, first for your miracles, va'al nifla'asecha, and for your wonders, va'al Yeshua secha, and for your salvations. So let's look at this message that the Rebbe explains about this song. What is the meaning of these 3 areas that we talk about and why are they switched at the end? So actually, the Rebbe points out, and we can notice this if we look at the song, that there are two parts. The first part talks about the three forms, the miracles, the wonders, and the salvations that were performed for our ancestors during the period of the miracle of Hanukkah. And the end talks about our response. When we think about and we focus on the miracles that took place, what's our response? Lahodos or lahalel l'shimcha hagadol, to give thanks and praise to your great name, to Hashem, for all these miraculous events that took place. Now, in the order that things took place, the miracles of Chanukah, before the miracles took place, there were salvations, and then they were followed by wonders. But when it comes to our response, lahodos or lahalal, to give thanks and to give praise, the miracles are the ones that elicit that emotional response to give thanks and praise to Hashem. And then only after that is it followed by the wonders and finally by the salvation. So let's go through this journey and see, why is it that way? Why is it that chronologically it goes first miracles, wonders, and salvations? But when it comes to us giving thanks, what is it that motivates us to give thanks? It's first the miracles, then the wonders, and then the salvation. So we're going to understand, as the Rebbe is going to explain to us, the difference between these three things that we mentioned over here. In order for a person to be assured of victory when fighting someone of their equal, that person must be blessed with Hashem's help and salvation. Because really, in the natural way, either side could win. They're both equal. One of them is going to have to win. But it's really a toss-up. It could be one, it could be others. And we see this because when equals spar, let's say even if you look in sport, sometimes one will be victorious, sometimes the other one will be victorious. And so it seems, it looks at first glance that victory is just a natural, it follows the natural law. A miracle, on the other hand, what's a miracle? A miracle is when you can see that there is a total inequality, where there is a weaker entity against a stronger entity. Now, if the weaker entity wins, that's a miracle. That's what happened with the big war that happened with the Jewish people during the time of the miracle of Hanukkah. So, because according to nature, a smaller, weaker army is not going to be victorious. That takes a ness. That takes a miracle. And wonders, what are wonders? Wonders are, even though it's not like a clear miracle, but yet it's something to marvel at. So a person beholds something that causes them to take notice and say, wow, that's amazing. Not necessarily an open miracle, but it's something that is wondrous, and it's pause for thought. We take notice of something that is wondrous, and it's out of the ordinary. So the Rebbe explains that the beginning of the story of Hanukkah, the Hashmonaim, the Jewish army, being victorious over the Greek soldiers in Modi'in, that was equal footing. It was one small army against another small army. And Matisyahu and his sons were victorious. So obviously, Hashem's hand is in everything. But this is referred to as a salvation, because it's plausible for a person to look at the situation and say, okay, so there were two armies, equal size, and one had to be victorious, so they were victorious. So as Jews, of course, we recognize Hashem's hand, so that is referred to as a salvation, as a Yeshua. Later on, though, when the army of Antiochus came in, that was a sizable army. That was a formidable army. They were strong, they were mighty, they were many. The Jews were way fewer. The Jews were weaker. And so it was absolutely evident that Hashem was right there with Bnei Israel, and they were able to overcome the army of Antiochus. When finally the Hashmonaim were able to come back into the Beis Hamikdash, into the Holy Temple, and remember the army had gone in to the Beis Hamikdash and defiled the Holy Temple. They came to find a horrendous mess and desecration. What happened? They found one cruse of oil. Now, there were more than one cruse of oil, but there was one cruse of oil that had still on it the seal of the Kohen Gadol, which proclaimed and announced its purity and its holiness. So this was not necessarily a miracle. This was a wonder. So yeah, you're super happy with the find, and where everything else was defiled and the seals were broken, it's a wondrous occurrence to find the jar of oil. And even though we know it was a great miracle, but you could argue, you could say, it's entirely plausible that the Syrians didn't see this, and it was hidden, and they didn't see it. So therefore, we refer to it as a wonder as opposed to a miracle. That's the sequence of events, the Rebbe explains. Now let's look at how we respond emotionally to what went on. And this is as is expressed at the end of the Haneros Halalu, where we say how we respond, that we break out into song of thanks and praise to Hashem for the miracles, for the salvation, for the miracles, for the wonders, and for the salvation. So we see there is a change. So initially, we are naturally more inclined to be moved by a miracle, moved in a deeper way, in a greater way, by a miracle, by something that is out of the ordinary. There is no way of explaining it through natural causes. And when we see that, and when we experience that, immediately the response is we are moved to thank and praise Hashem. When it comes to wonders, on the other hand, we first have to stop and think about it. We have this incredible find, and it takes a little bit longer to absorb the concept and the idea and be moved to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for this. And the same is true about the salvations. So that's the reason that they are turned around. And in essence, the truth is, when we celebrate a miracle and we're moved to give thanks to Hashem, the automatic response is that we then recognize and see that even the salvations and even the wonders are also miracles of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, are miracles of Hashem, of God. And the truth is, as we learn in Chassidus, and when we give contemplation to this concept, to this idea of what is a miracle, the truth is that nature is also a miracle. What's the difference between nature? What's the difference between the ness that we call the miracle, where it's obvious, and the pella, the wonder, or the Yeshua, or the salvation? So essentially, there really is not a difference. But nothing happens in this world without HaKadosh Baruch Hu, without God. What is the difference? The difference is that a salvation, that a natural occurrence, is something that we are accustomed to. Every day, the sun rises, thank God, and the sun sets. Every day, we experience incredible miracles, but we become accustomed to them. We become used to seeing those miracles. We plant a seed in the ground, and the seed produces a plant. That's a miraculous occurrence, no less miraculous than the splitting of the Red Sea. You get in your car, you push the ignition, or you turn the ignition, and the car comes to life. And then you press on the pedal and the car moves. That's no less of a miracle than Sarah Imenu giving birth at the age of 90 years old. What's the difference? The difference is that there are certain miracles that we see regularly. And we call it nature. In Hebrew, the nature is hateva. Hateva is the nature. And if you count the numerical value of the word hateva, the nature, and Elokim, Hashem, which is the word used right when Hashem created the world, Bereshis bara Elokim esa shamayim ve'esa aretz. God created the entire world, Elokim, with his name, Elokim, that's nature. So by God, it makes no difference. God does everything. There is no difference by Hashem to create a world from nothing, or to do something that's out of the ordinary, meaning it's out of the ordinary because we see it on a constant basis, or that there should be a miraculous occurrence. It's all one and the same. And this is what we sing in this song of Haneras Halalu. As we bring praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we bring praise to Hashem. We thank Hashem for all of these things. And as we take the time to sit and to look at the candles, we we contemplate on these beautiful and important messages. You know, just to look again at the prayer that we say, that we add to our Birchas Hamazon, to our grace after meals, and to the Amida, because within this prayer we can see what it is that Hashem, that we are celebrating. So on page 51 in the Amida, you can find the Ba'al Hanissim. You can also find it in the Grace After Meals. This is in the weekday Amida. So we say, we thank you for the miracles, for the redemption, for the mighty deeds, for the saving acts, and for the wonders which you have brought for our ancestors in those days at this time. And then we go on to say, in the days of Matisyahu, the son of Yochanan the high priest, the Chashmonaim and the Hasmoni and the Chashmonai and his sons, when the wicked Hellenic government rose up against your people Israel, what did they want to do? Lahashkicham Torasecha, to make them forget your Torah. It doesn't say lahashkicham Torah. It doesn't say to forget the Torah. It says Torasecha, your Torah, referring to the Torah of Hashem. So again, we're underlining this aspect, this concept of taking out the godliness. Keep the culture of the Torah. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. But heaven and earth are separate, God forbid. That's the message that they wanted. Lahashkicham Torasecha, to keep us, to make us forget your Torah. Or laha'avira mechuke retzonecha, and to violate the decrees of your will. So some of the decrees, it's okay. They didn't have a problem with some of your decrees. Even, for example, the lighting of the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash. They didn't pour out all of the oil. They defiled the oil. Lights are beautiful. We see beautiful lights. But are these beautiful lights holy? And that's what they wanted to do away with, the holiness. Anything that was above a human contemplation, which means it included embracing godly wisdom, that they wanted to do away with. And that is the miracle of Hanukkah. And that's why it's so important that as we celebrate Hanukkah, where do we light the Hanukkah candles? We light the Hanukkah candles in public places. In previous generations, way back in the time, the menorahs were lit outside. Actually, today, if you go to Eretz Yisrael, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. You see everybody lights their candles literally outside, in the streets. They have beautiful cases. They put the menorah in the outside. Now, for many generations, it wasn't a possibility. We couldn't do this in the Western parts of the world. Never mind, we couldn't do it in Israel either. But thank God, today we find ourselves at a time where we have the capability to do this. And this is why the Rebbe put such emphasis on this Yom Tov of Hanukkah, that we should light candles in public places. Why? Because the message of the menorah is not just for us. Yes, first we need to take this message of the menorah and internalize it ourselves and make our homes filled with that presence of Hashem and that knowledge that everything in this world is to further Hashem's desire in having his presence revealed in this world. But We have a mandate to be an Or LaGoyim. We have a mandate to be a light unto the nations. And that's why the mitzvah of Hanukkah, the message of Hanukkah, is specifically to be done towards the outside. So first we have to obviously strengthen ourselves. And then we have to remember that the reason we're strengthening ourselves is so that we can bring this light to the outside world. And it's such a beautiful thing to see as you drive around town and you see beautiful menorahs in so many places. First of all, every Chabad house has a beautiful menorah outside and has brought many menorahs to public places, and it's caught on. You see this beautiful scene during the holiday of Hanukkah, where the light and the message of the light that overpowers the darkness, that Hashem is there right alongside with all of us, and that all that we do in life is about this purpose, is about the revelation of the light. And this should give us koyach, this should give us strength to push through and to realize that even though things may sometimes seem to be a little dark, but we know that the darkest part of the night is always before the dawn. And it should be a lichtige Chanukah. It should be a Chanukah filled with light for all of us in every sense of the word. And we should be able, please God, to enjoy the kind of salvations and miracles that took place with our ancestors in Mitzrayim, and with our ancestors during the stories of Purim and during the stories of Hanukkah. In fact, Hashem has promised us that the miracles that he showed as we left Mitzrayim, we're going to see in the era of Mashiach. And we know that the holiday and its teachings of Hanukkah will continue forever. They are eternal lessons and eternal revelations that we will continue to appreciate la'olam va'ed, forevermore. And it should be a beautiful Hanukkah for everybody.
Amen.
Amen.
I want to just make mention that we have lots of Hanukkah events still to come up. Tonight we have the Menorah Parade, and we have, even if you're not going to join on the Menorah Parade, you can go to the end of the parade to Boomers and enjoy a beautiful light show. And tomorrow night is comedy outdoors outside of the Chabad house, and we should just continue to, not tomorrow night, Wednesday night, thank you. It should be a Freilich and Chanukah for everybody. Again, if you need Hanukkah candles, if you need menorahs, anything anybody needs for Hanukkah, do not hesitate to reach out. Or if you know somebody that needs something, you can let us know.